I got my Venus in Aquarius, both trying to catch me.
Hey guys, welcome ladies, gentlemen, and Steve Buscemi. So welcome back to another musical mukbang, and again I have my best friend,
Aliana. So we've always wanted to try spicy Korean, any type of Asian. It's not racist. I don't care. We have spicy Korean noodles from a pack that we made ourselves. And then we have buffalo chicken from Applebee's with some ranch celery and some Tabasco sauce just in case it's not spicy. Did you just say the N-word?
What? The musical we're going to be talking about today is A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. Aliana's never seen this musical, so this is just going to be me telling her the story, and then you guys will be learning about it with her. I'm literally horrified.
My food is not spicy at all.
You know, I'm less scared and more like... I'm so scared.
Okay. 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 That's a lot of pepper.
It is. It like creeps up on you. Let's try a wing also.
We have some ranch if you want to dip in.
You're doing better than I thought you were gonna do.
I'm dying on the inside, trust me. I'm...
Ranch. Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder starts off. There's this guy,
a gentleman, if you will.
so there's a guy, and he's just come back from his mother's funeral.
Oh, that's sad.
Oh, she died? Oh.
Passed away? Oh. All right.
So he's just come back from his mother's funeral, and he's distraught. Not, are you okay? So like that's celery. If I go, you know. So he comes back from his mother's funeral. He's really upset because, you know, his mother died, and so he's really upset. And then this old lady like nickety knocks on.
Nickety knock.
Nickety knocks on his door, and she's like, "Hey, I knew your mom, and like I'm really sorry for your loss." He's like, "All right, I mean, go off, I guess." And so she's like, "Listen, I have something to get off my chest about your mother." And he's like, "Okay, what?" And then she's like, "Your mom is a descendant of like the royalty in where we live." And she's like, and Monty, the main guy Monty, is like, "Here's the thing, madam. I don't believe you." And she's like, "No, but I'm telling the truth. Like the Dysquist, this big rich family, she's one of the Dysquists. And like you spend your whole life probably like seeing them in newspapers, like hearing their tea, but your mom's a Dysquith. His mom was a Dysquith, and that he's the son of the daughter of the grandson of the nephew
Okay.
of the second Earl of
That's
Highurst.
quite the family tree. I have to say so myself.
So she's like down, but she's there. And then she tells him how, you know, she was part of their family, but then she met Monty's dad, and Monty's dad was Castilian. Like, he wasn't rich at all. He was just from like a random place. And the family was like, "Oh, well, you can't date him or marry him because you're royalty. Like, you have to marry someone royal." And he was like, "Okay, so I'll leave."
Period.
They have Monty, and then Monty's dad dies, and then she just raises Monty, and neither one of them ever tell him that she's a Dysquith.
Okay.
And then he's like, I'm not really, this all seems a little Wattpad-esque. She's like, "No, I have proof, like, I bet your mother never told you about, like, where she's from, like, her family. You never met your grandparents on that side. Like, that's all because of
I
this.
never thought of that.
Uh-huh.
Why? Monty.
And he's like, oh, that makes sense now. So he's like, damn, that's crazy. So then he's like, that's crazy. Like, that's nuts. And then he's like hooking up with this girl who has more money than him, named Sabella.
Isabella?
No, Sabella.
I'm not gonna ask questions.
I'm like proud in how you're dealing with this.
I'm not.
Okay.
You're talking and I'm like,
He goes to Sabella's house and he's like, sugar plum honey bunches. You will not believe what I just found out.
okay.
And she's like, what, bitch? He's like, you know the dice quiz? That rich ass, like, monarchy, royalty. My mom was a dice quiz. And she's like, what? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And I'm Queen Elizabeth. Like, let's relax. And then he's like, no, I'm telling the truth. Like, I swear. She's like, don't I look pretty in this dress? Oh, I got this dress the other day. I think I look really good. Do you think I look good? And he's like, well, my mother has just passed away. And I found out that I'm royalty. So I'm kind of focused on different things right now. But, like, she doesn't fully believe him, you know what I mean? And so then she's like, alright, whatever. And then while they're chit-chatting, he's like, yeah, you look nice in a dress. Like, alright, can we focus on me? She's like, I can't, I'm getting ready for a date. And he's like, what? And she's like, oh yeah, this rich guy, he's been like on me to go out with him.
My mother. Are we not understanding that I'm now rich?
Literally. And so he's like, but I didn't know like you were like going to hang out with other people. Like, I knew that we weren't exclusive.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that you were gonna date someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, yeah, well, he's been on me and he's like a lot of money. And like, I should probably like settle down now. You know what I mean? And then Monty is like, I mean, okay, like, have fun, but like, I'm telling you that I could also potentially be rich.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, you're the son of the whatever. Like, being a distant relative doesn't get you anywhere. The main person of that family is the Earl, and the people like a little bit below the Earl. So she's like, you're so down, like 10 people would have to die for you to be rich enough that I care.
Mm-hmm. Sabella got a point. Let's...
And then he's like, ouch. And so she's like telling him like, you know, I feel bad, you know, because I really like you. But think about it. I have to settle down because that's the way life is. But you can go on, get a job, get a career, make something of yourself, and make me regret not being with you.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, this is just how it's gotta be. And then he's like, I mean, I guess. And while she's telling him, like, I bet you're gonna go off, meet a better girl, have a lot of babies, and be happy. And then while she's telling him this, she, like, realizes that, like, she's like, I'll be with someone, like, 30 years older than me, rich, married to a rock.
He's not gonna have time to do anything with me. He's not gonna have time to get freaky deaky in the sheets on a Sunday
Yeah, because
night.
she's trying to, like, get him okay with her not being with him, but then she realizes, like, hey, this kind of sucks for me.
Yeah.
And so, scene ends.
Oh, that's... Okay.
It's not the show.
Oh,
the
I was
scene.
like, it's kind of quick.
And so then Monty's like depressed, and he's like, of course she would never like pick me. Like, I knew we were hooking up, but obviously she's not gonna marry me. Like, she has more money than me. She wants to marry someone with more money than her. Why would she go backwards?
Mm-hmm.
So Monty sends a letter to Lord Asquith Dysquith Jr., who's the son of Lord Asquith Dysquith. And so he's like, hey, like, I just really need, like, the resources right now. I don't have any family. Like, it would be really nice if I can, like, go have an interview somewhere or, like, be able to say, like, hey, I'm a dice quit, and then get a job. And then he's like, hey, don't use my last name. Don't talk to me again. Don't
Really
come
rude.
by my house.
You're done.
So he finds this other family member that's a dice quit, and he's Reverend Ezekiel. He's like, hey, this is a priest. He'd be nice. And so he goes to the church, and he's like, Father, I'm so upset, like, I don't know what to do. And he tells him, like, the whole story, and I'm pretty sure I remember that the priest, like, remembers his mom. And he's like, oh yeah, your mom was so sweet, like, I'm really sorry that that happened, but, like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I'm not going to cause a stir in the family over you. I don't care enough.
Not a king, okay?
Yeah, literally, he's a priest. Like, what, you gonna pray? Like, I'm just
Pray about it.
Mm-hmm. And so, he's like, I'm sorry, B. But then he's like, but I feel bad. Let me take you. We have a beautiful view at the top of the church. At the bell tower. We have a beautiful view. Let me show you to make up for your troubles. And so then they go up, and the Reverend's like, you see that view? And Monty's like distraught. He really has no other option to pursue, like, being part of this family. And he's like, yeah, the view's great. And then the Reverend is like, wow, so beautiful. It's getting windy up here, huh? And then Monty's like, I guess, maybe a storm's gonna happen.
I'm sorry.
And then a storm happens, or like a gust of wind.
Mm-hmm.
And the Reverend is like looking over, and he falls. And he's like holding on to the bell tower. And he's like, oh my god, like, help me up. Anyways. So he's like, yo, help me up, like, I'm falling. And then Monty's like, huh.
I think I heard someone call my name.
Yeah. He's like, let me think about this. Pros and cons. And he starts thinking, and he's like, if I let this man die, I am one person closer to being the Lord.
Mm-hmm. The Lord?
Even though he's not allowed to say that he's their last name, if there's nobody else, and he can prove that he's related to them, he will be the Lord. And so he's like, So literally, the priest is like dying, and Monty's like, and the priest falls and dies. And then Monty's like, you know what? This is interesting. This is an interesting way for all of this to play out. And so, yeah, so he dies. One more person closer. Monty really is like, well, he's dead, but, like, I can't just kill everybody at once, because then people are going to be a little sus. So he's like, let me just go back to my job and lay low for a little bit, so I don't seem too sus.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes back to his job, and he's like a clerk somewhere.
Ew.
But while he's being a clerk, he's watching Lord Asquith Dysquith Jr., the one that gave him the letter back and was like, hey, do me a favor and die.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, like, starts watching him, seeing what he does on a daily basis, and he sees that he has, like, a mistress, like, not that he's married and cheating, but that he has, like, this, like, side hoe. He's watching them, and then he finds out that they're going to be going to, like, an ice skating rink.
Oh, I didn't know
And
they
he's
had
like,
those.
that's romantic. And so he goes, and he brings poison, and there's poison in his pocket. That song I played the other day. But he's like, this really just serves me no purpose, because they're ice skating. I'm going to throw the poison at them. He's like, I don't know. So then he gets, like, a saw, and he saws a hole when he sees that they're the only ones going around. And then him, Lord Asquith Dysquith Jr., and his mistress go into the hole, and they drown. So that's already somebody else.
Let's just make a hit list. Next person! Dead!
And after this happens, Monty goes back to work. He's like, let me lie low again.
Okay.
And then he gets a letter from Lord Asquith Dysquith, Lord Asquith Dysquith Jr.'s dad.
Ooh.
And he's like, oh my god, I just heard, like, going through my son's stuff, now that he's dead, I'm going through my son's stuff, and I saw that you sent him a letter talking about your mom. I remember her. And my son was just so rude. I really do apologize. Like, I would have never responded to you like that, knowing that you're family. Like, why was he responding like that?
After he just killed 2 people.
Literally. And so he's like, wow, I really apologize that my son was that rude. Come to, like, the house, like, the Dysquith home, and get a job here. And then maybe, like, I can help you, like, raise up and then be more respected as a Dysquith. And he's like, just work with us, and, like, I'll help you out be, like, more respected, because, like, I know I'm the Lord, but, like, this happened a while ago. Like, I can't undo it, but I'm going to try.
Lord.
He's like, but I'm going to try to help you out as much as I can, now that I know that you're family. He's like, that's so nice. I'm starting to feel bad, but no, I'm still eye on the prize. And so then he, while now working for the Dysquith family, like, in their house, he gets a letter from Sabella, and Sabella's like, you remember that Lionel Howard, that rich guy that I went on a date with that one time when we were hooking up? And they're still, like, probably hooking up. She's like, I think end it because I'm engaged. And then he's like, oh, that's nice. That's interesting. That's great. But, you know, he's in pain. Monty is then like, all right, let me grab somebody else. So he sees, like, a distant cousin for the Dysquiths named Henry. And so he is like, let me try to do this at a bar. And he goes to the bar, and he's just, like, making conversation with Henry. And he's, like, talking to him. And it becomes, like, exceedingly clear to Monty that Henry's gay. Because Henry's, like, married, talking with his wife. But then Henry's like, but, like, between you and me, like, I just always feel, like, so much more comfortable when I'm talking to a guy, you know?
Not during Black History Month.
What? Monty's like, interesting. That's nice. And so he's trying to, like, figure out how to kill this guy, but this guy is fully just trying to get with him.
During Whale Awareness Month. Like,
Whale?
what?
Shamu did not die for this. And then Henry mentions that he loves bees. And he's like, hey, over the weekend, like, he's like, hey, over the weekend, I'm gonna go to my Dysquith estate just for me and my side, like, my piece of the family. And so we have, like, a bee thing, like, you could, like, come if you want.
Oh, bee thing, you can come.
And he's like, all right. So Monty goes. So Monty's like, I'm about to kill this gay guy. And so he goes. And
during Stop Asian Awareness
Stop
Week.
Asian Awareness?
Stop
They don't
Asian.
exist. I cannot be aware that they're here. He goes and he's like, all right, I'm going to figure out a way to get all these bees to sting him. So he, like, unlocks something or something like that where that when he comes in, like, all the bees will attack him. He does, like, his whole thing, and he's like, this is going to happen on its own. Let me just peruse. He peruses around, and then he meets Phoebe, which is Henry's sister, who Monty is also technically related to very far away.
Okay.
And so Phoebe's like, oh my god, hi. Like, I didn't know my brother was bringing anybody. And so then they get to know each other, and then Monty starts to, like Phoebe, because, like, Phoebe's very sweet. Like, Sabella was, like, very, like,
Feisty.
yeah,
sassy.
she was, like, very sexy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Phoebe's, like, all, like, very, like, oh, you're so handsome. Like, she's very sweet. And she tells him how she's, like, I think her ex-husband died. So she's a widow. And she's like, yeah, so I'm just here. I live with my brother now. But I'm a Dysquith again because my husband died. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and they're just getting to know each other. And then in the musical, they're just talking and having, like, this romantic thing. And then you see the guy playing the brother in the back, like, fighting off bees and dying.
That's dark.
While he's talking to Phoebe, he's like, listen, I know I wanted this to get up there to be with Sabella. Sabella is engaged. Like, I don't know how fast I can do this. I should just give up. And so he's like, if I become the Lord, which I want to still become, fuck Sabella. I'm going to marry Phoebe and make her the top one in her family.
Instead of...
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sabella didn't want him in the beginning.
Exactly.
But she doesn't deserve
He's
to have
like,
him in the
I'm
end.
going to marry the hell out of this fourth cousin.
Mm-hmm. I'm his fourth cousin?
Something like that, because
He's disgusting.
So then he finds a female, the first chick, Lady Hyacinth Dysquith. She's another like cousin or whatever, and she likes to go to like different countries. And like she's like
island, yeah.
she's like, I'm rich, I'm European, I'm gonna go to like poor countries and like help you out.
Fix them.
I'm gonna make some houses in the Philippines or like something like that. And so he's like, this is gonna be difficult because she's never here. So he tries to find ways to have things set in other countries. So he's like, oh, this like Egyptian thing, like you should help with that. And like she goes, and it's like basically like the civil war happening in Egypt. Like he knows what's happening, and then he sends her there. So he like plants it in her brain to go to a country that's having a lot of problems. So she goes, and he's like, that's gonna pan out itself because she's gonna go and try to like help people when literally the whole country's on fire. Mind you, even though he's decided like, when I get married, when I become the Lord, I'm gonna marry Phoebe. Even though they've decided this, now Sabella is married, and him and her are still hooking up.
Okay.
And so he's like, this bitch can't quit it. I guess I just... And so they're still hooking up. He's like, that Lady Hyacinth is gonna pan out itself. She comes back and she's fine. And then he does it again for another country. She comes back and is fine. And he's like, I literally do not know what to do. So, like, his last, like, saving grace is, like, he finds out there's this town in Africa where a bunch of cannibals are. And he's like, can you go to this town and, like, try to fix up their town? And she's like, oh my god, great idea. And so she goes, and then she doesn't come back. So then the family's like, she's dead. But they never find her dead.
Oh.
So they just all assume. So they just, like, assume that she's dead. And then he's like... Perfect. And then so Sabella's like, I'm like so proud of him. Like, he really like, he got me like,
shut up.
he got me like
tripping. Ooh,
oh,
stumbling.
So then he meets another cousin. It's Major Lord Bartholomew. It's a major because like he's like a big, strong like army guy. Also, in the musical, one guy plays every Dysquith. So he dresses up as a woman. He dresses up as, he dresses up as every Dysquith. So every time Monty kills it, it's the same guy just dressed up as another person.
That's what I thought. I thought when you talked about the priest, I was like, they probably had the same guy play each and every one of them, but you didn't say it. So okay.
Yeah. The major, he likes to work out. So then Monty goes where he works out and like lets him basically like, you know when you have someone spot you when you're doing like that? He basically just lets it fall and crush him.
Does no one think it's his fault?
And so Phoebe's like depressed because you know her whole family's dying. And so Monty like consoles her. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Even though he's the one who's doing it.
He's evil.
And so then he finds this other cousin. Her name's Lady Salome Dysquith Pumphrey.
Okay.
And so she's an actress. And she sucks. But she's like an actress. She's like in a bunch of plays in London or wherever the hell they're supposed to be. And so he goes to the play and then he sees like one night that the end is like with a shooting scene. Like she gets shot, but nothing happens. So he goes backstage and puts real bullets. And so then the next night, she gets like shot in front of the whole audience.
Oh my gosh. These are getting more and more sinister.
Literally. And so he's like, another one bites the dust.
So basically I explained this wrong, but I'm saying that Lord Asquith Dysquith Sr. isn't the top one. There's still someone above him, Lord Adalbert Dysquith, but he doesn't really correspond with the family. He just kind of chills by himself, but he's the top one over him.
So Lord Asquith Dysquith and Lord Adalbert are now the two only people that Monty has between him and becoming the top.
Okay.
So then he feels bad because now he has to kill Lord Asquith Dysquith, and he's the one who gave him the job, but like he was the only one who's ever nice to him. And so he's like, I feel like shit, like I really don't want to do this. But he gets left off the hook because Lord Asquith dies of a heart attack by himself. And so then he's like, oh, that was easy. You know that thing where like it's the bun?
Kill a couple Asquith, but they did it themselves. They didn't even need his help.
And so now Lord Adalbert is the only person in his way.
Okay. The top one.
Yeah. But then like the town, the city is like, who is this guy that's like now a Dicewith? Like there are no other Dicewiths except for him. Like that's crazy. Like he came out of nowhere. And that's the end of Act 1.
Well, he's gonna get karma so bad.
Second act, it starts with Lord Asquith, Dicewith's funeral. And the distant relatives of the Dicewiths, the one that aren't like in the lineage to win, just like cousins and like random people that aren't in line, they go to the funeral and they're like, why are all of us dying?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that's so weird. And so like it appears like the public doesn't really like notice anything's up, but the family's like, am I gonna die?
Is my time coming? I'm confused.
Yeah, literally. Lord Adalbert,
Oh.
he's now getting nervous. He's like, you know what, you guys are right. This is getting a little too close for comfort. The way that everyone in our family is dead. And so while this is happening, Monty and Sabella are still panning it out. So after a little hook up a quickie for lunchtime,
Okay. But isn't he with Phoebe?
he gets a knock on his door and it's Phoebe. And he's like, shit. And then he has Sabella in one room and Phoebe in another room. He's with Phoebe and he's like, what's up? Like, what are you doing here? And Phoebe's like, I'm tired of like waiting for like you to make the move. I'm tired of being a widow. I'm asking you to marry me.
I've known you for 2 weeks. Phoebes, if I can call you that. We're not at that level yet. My side hoe is giving me the Gluck Gluck 5000 every night.
So he's like, sure. And while this is happening, Sabella's like, what's going on over there?
You come out.
No, but she knows that it's Phoebe who came in. And she's like, she doesn't know that, like, they know each other. So Sabella's like, why is his, like, cousin here? And it's, like, a whole scene of him trying to, like, hide both of them from each other. Then Phoebe leaves, and Sabella comes out, and she's like, why was she here for so long?
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
he was like,
bitch.
and then Monty's like, oh, we were just talking.
Listen, you're the side hoe. You don't get to ask questions.
So he's now engaged, but Sabella doesn't know that. And so then he is like living his life, and then he sees Lady Hyacinth is back, and so she didn't die from the cannibals. Wow. She's back. So then he finds a ship that she's gonna like disembark from and like fuck something up, and then when he fucks up the plank, and when she goes on the plank, she drowns, and that's how she dies.
2 drownings, floppy.
So Lord Adalbert starts getting like a little, because his whole family's dead. And then he's like,
imagine.
He's like, let me have like a little dinner. That will solve everything. So Lord Adalbert and his wife, Lady Eugenia, they have a party. And so, funny you say that. So they have a dinner.
I'm so good at this.
And so then they invite Phoebe and Monty because they're engaged. And for some reason, I guess because they're friends, but we don't learn this until now, he invites his good friend Lionel and his wife, Sabella.
Ooh.
Sabella sees Monty and Phoebe and she's like, that was the girl that was there the other day. So she gets mad and she's like throwing it in his face. And he's like, listen, you're married. I'm gonna be married now. This doesn't change anything. We can stop hooking up if it bothers you. So then they have dinner and like Phoebe's like starting to sense that something's a little off. Like in the air you can feel that Sabella and Monty know each other.
Tension.
Yeah. So like you can tell that they know each other and they're like, and so then Lord Adalbert and his wife start getting into like an argument and he brings out a gun and he's like, would you just like it if I like shot myself in the head? Or like they just are over dramatic as hell. Lord Adalbert and his wife are like, all right, fine. So they continue eating, and then while they're eating, Monty's like, I was so distracted with Sabella and Phoebe being in the same room. But like I had this poison that I was gonna put in the food, but like the food's coming out from the servers.
Poison from before.
Yeah, literally. And so he's like, where am I supposed to put this? Like, he's just gonna be eating and he's just gonna be like and then all of a sudden Lord Adelbert's like, and he dies. Monty's like, okay. And everyone is like, oh my god, like Lord Monty, like that's crazy. And he gets all this attention for like maybe, I think the scene happens like right after, but then like maybe like a day. And then the police come and they're like, Monty Navarro, we're like here for your arrest. And Monty's like, why? And in his head he's like, oh, which thing did they catch? And they're like, we're putting you like in jail for the murder of Lord Adelbert Dysquith. And in his head he's like, that's literally the one person I didn't kill. And so then Phoebe, now that they're, you know, engaged, I think that now they're married actually. Like they get married once he gets popular or he becomes it. And she's like, oh my god, my husband like is in jail. And so then she goes to the like detectives, like the FBI, and she's like, here's what I think happened at the dinner. I think Sabella poisoned him because I could sense something between them. I think maybe in her twisted brain she thought, oh, if I kill him and I get Monty to be the top person, that he'll want me back if I like tell him
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Sabella has the same idea, and she goes to the detectives like a day after. Goes to the police and she's like, Phoebe wants to be the like lady, like the top lady so bad. This whole time she's just been like the Lord Henry, whatever his name is, his sister. No one even knows her in this family. She's widowed. Like imagine being like a sad widow for all your life and then you get the chance to be like the lady of the whole like country.
That also makes sense.
Like they both have completely different stories, but how they 100% saw each other do it. And so they're like, this doesn't help us. He's just in jail, like rotting away. And then Phoebe comes to visit him. And he's like been writing a journal. He's like bored, so he starts writing like a memoir for people to find after he's like put to death. That's why it's called, he's like a gentleman's guide to love and murder. Like he writes a memoir about himself. And so then Phoebe comes and she's like trying to console him. And then she's like looking at him and she's like, while we were dating and while we were engaged, were you like with Sabella? And then Monty's like, and then Phoebe's like, and then he's like, oh, shit. Someone comes in and they're like, they found like proof, irrefutable proof that you didn't do it. And there are too many stories, so we're just gonna let you go. While like he's in the jail cell, like he makes friends with like this janitor guy who works in whatever the hell. So I forgot to mention this, but the janitor's name is Chauncey, and him and Monty bond because Chauncey also says that he's like a black sheep of the Dysquith family too, and like he's been left so far behind that he's basically not even a family member or treated like a family member either. And so he leaves, and he leaves the guy who told him that he's free, and he goes up to the janitor, he's like, I'm free, and he's like all excited, and then he leaves, and now he's the Lord for real because like he's been like, he lost all the charges. And then he sees like Phoebe, she's waiting for him, and he's like, I can't believe that she waited for me. So he's like trying to be like, hey. She's like, so I've like thought about it, and like I've been lonely for way too long, so like if you want, me and Sabella could share you. And then he's like, he gets both Sabella and Phoebe.
He does not deserve that.
And so then he's like going home with both of them, I guess. He's like, I forgot my journal.
Oh,
and you see the scene of him being like, shit, let me get my journal. And then he comes back, and the janitor's there, and he's reading it. And then Monty's like, hi. And the janitor like closes it, and he's like, here you go. Like, take it.
You gotta kill that janitor.
And then the whole town is like excited because they have a new lord, and they're like, having this whole party. Everyone's so excited. It's the closing number. And then you just see like the janitor in the side. And then Monty's like, I still don't know who killed Lord Adelbert. And then the old lady who told him that he was like in the line, she was like, it was me. Like she comes to his house and then confesses that it was her. And he was like, why would you do that? And then she was just like, I could see what was going on. Like after I told you, suddenly all of them die. And I knew Lord Adelbert was going to be the most difficult. So I just like wanted to help you. And so then after all this happens and like Monty's all excited and Chauncey has read the the book, like the memoir that he wrote while in jail, he's like, so like he starts singing Poison in My Pocket like as it's closing, and he's like following Monty out, and then the curtain call happens, and then after like during the after the curtain call, after all the characters bow, then Monty like hugs the guy who plays Chauncey, and he like gives him like a flower, and the guy like sniffs the flower, and he like gets lightheaded and dies.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's actually, fun fact, it's based off of a real book,
Really?
and no one knows who wrote it. It's not called James Smith's Guide to Solving Murder. It's called something else.
It's a true story?
I'm not sure. I don't think anyone knows, but it's like a memoir about this guy who like killed his whole family to like get powerful, but no one knows the family he's talking about. So people think that it's fake, but it's such an old book that like maybe it could be real, and it's just like a royal family that doesn't exist anymore. What was your favorite death?
Definitely had to be the bees.
I knew
Because I like the idea of him being in the background, like not actually showing it, but him being in the background, blah, blah, blah. Also, being shot on stage in front of everyone.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Like jazz.